Penn State Extension Service joins us. Conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. And you can give Bob a call at 479-1160 if you have a question for him. Robert, good morning.
Good morning.
It is the fall season. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
It sure is.
And
you can see the leaves changing and the temperatures changing.
Yeah. Some people are still getting production out of their gardens, even in this colder weather, and I want to talk to you about that in just a moment. But we do have a caller first, and we'll say good morning to them. Good morning.
Good morning.
What can we do for you today?
I'd like to know how to get rid of stink bugs.
Bob, somebody has stink bugs. In the house, you mean?
Well, they're outside, but I have a little clothesline out back, and if I hang clothes on, they get on my clothes.
They're all over.
And I'll shake them off and everything, or think I have them off, but then I'll find them in the house. I'll find, like one or
Oh, yeah.
in the house.
Oh, yeah, you and everybody else. Bob, fix her stink bug problem, will you?
I wish it were that simple. They have a mind of their own, and it's a little difficult to control them, especially outside, just in general in the environment. I guess the easier thing to do is to try to do a double inspection of the clothes before you fold them and bring them in. They're attracted, especially on lighter colored things, and a lot of insects are attracted to lighter colors, so, white sheets and things like that, they tend to kind of go towards, as opposed to some dark colors. So that's probably why they're just out there, and they're happen to land on that lighter colored surface, and so the stink bugs will overwinter in most cases as adults. So you might get some inside finding another way in other than on the clothes, but
do they fly?
Really
Do they fly, Bob? She wants to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can fly. They're not strong flyers, but they can fly.
Okay.
They crawl around a lot, but they can also fly.
Yeah, that's mostly where I see them, crawling.
And there's no real preventative for them, is there, Bob? It's just something that you have to deal with, seal up the house as best you can, and when you find one, scoop it up in a Kleenex and get rid of it.
The good news is, even if they get indoors, they're not going to do any harm. They're just a misplaced insect at that point. There's a number of different types of stink bugs. There's a whole bunch of stink bugs that we've had around for just about forever. And then, of course, we have the brown marmorated stink bug, which is the newer one that's more of an invasive pest and can actually attack some crops. However, it has a very broad host range, so even if you don't have any fruits and vegetables and things growing outside, they still will get on trees and shrubs, and they hang a lot out in the woods and along the woods edges, and then they will move.
So it's a grin and bear it situation.
Crop that they can come and attack. So
you just got to grin and bear it.
That's pretty much the deal.
I probably didn't help you, Miss Caller, did I?
On certain crops and things that they're a pest on, then yes, we can treat that crop to help control those. Like apples are an example. They can do a lot of damage to apples with their mouth parts. They'll pierce right into the skin of the apple and essentially destroy the apple. And you don't necessarily know that right off the bat until you go to eat it or peel it, and then you will see the damage to the flesh of the apple.
All right.
Okay.
We did our best for you. I know it's not much.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
All right. So I don't think we did very well by her, but we've not been doing very well by stink bugs for quite some time.
That's right. They, and for the most part, they mind their own business, and we don't really notice them that much. Mm-hmm. But in other cases like this, that's when they become noticeable, and we want to do something about them.
They rear their stinky, ugly heads. Okay. I started to ask you about things in the garden. People are still getting some production out of their garden, and even when we get the frost. We have talked in the past about how long you can keep things in the garden, and those underground, those root crops, they can stay in a little bit longer, can't they?
Yes, that's right. As long as the ground isn't frozen, a lot of those crops you can, as long as you can keep growing the tops, and then when we get too cold of weather, although it's been an interesting fall, hasn't it?
No, yeah.
We've had some warmer days. Of course, it's still very dry.
Yeah. Let's ask our caller to turn down their radio so that we can get them on with you in a second here. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Good morning, caller.
Hi.
What can we do for you this morning?
Well, I don't have a stinky problem.
Okay. Well, we'll be the judge of that, but go ahead.
My concern is blossom end rot on my tomatoes. I know that generally that's a calcium deficiency, and the reason I kind of mystified is I use a liquid calcium solution when I watered my tomatoes, and the first 2 or 3 tiers were fine, but the upper, I staked my tomatoes. The upper tomatoes, many of them got blossom end rot. And is it that calcium's not my problem, but it's another mineral that I need in order for my tomato plant to absorb the calcium?
All right, Bob, that's a pretty good question.
Now, how often were you watering?
I was following the Dr. Bob guideline, about an inch a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we did get very hot and very dry. They still, and depending on the amount of growth and the amount of fruit that the plant was trying to develop, it still may not have been able to, there may still been an imbalance of calcium and the moisture, because usually when we've got to get into a little bit of an extreme, either too dry or too wet, so it can happen on both ends of the spectrum. And if the pH is where it needs to be, which you probably have it there, because anywhere from 6.2 to 6.8 is the range we're shooting for the vegetables. And then by supplementing, although some plants take in, it can take a while for that, even in a solution, for that calcium to become available to the plant. But I'm still wondering whether, because it was so hot and dry, and even with that watering, there still could have been periods of time there where the plant wasn't able to absorb enough along with the calcium to keep everything going okay.
Okay.
Because there really aren't any other nutrients that will cause the blossom end rot.
Okay.
All righty. Well,
thank you.
We tried our best there, too. Thank you. It is Indiana in the Morning here on WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. Yeah, sometimes you can follow every guideline that is out there, Bob, but it still comes down to the type of weather and the timing of the weather, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And even with that inch of water a week, and I don't know what the soil, dig down in the soil to check and see. Sometimes we think we're getting enough water on, and when you dig a hole in the ground, you find out that the soil is still dry. We can be deceived like that pretty easily. Or we get a tenth or a 2/10 or 3/10 of an inch of rain, and things start to green up a little bit, but that can get used by those plants pretty quickly. And then also with very hot conditions, then that also will cause it to evaporate, and it also causes the plant to use more because the plant's trying to keep enough moisture in there, and a lot of it can get lost in a hurry.
Yeah, okay. All righty, well, those are some of the issues that folks are thinking about here this morning as we wrap up our segment with Bob Pollock today. Of course, you're keeping distant hours, correct, at the office?
Correct. Yeah, we have, they've changed the soil test kits, so you can actually get into the building, and then outside of our office door on the second floor, there are soil test kits there. Mm-hmm. What they've done is, instead of paying for them up front, you can pick up the bag and take it with you, and then when you submit it, you just send the money in directly with the soil test.
Okay, there you go.
So that's a major change from the way we used to do it. So the bag's a different bag now, and then you just submit it with whatever test you want, and then fill out the form and send it in with your payment. So that's happened, and then samples, of course, we're doing the same way. You can drop them off, and then we'll get them picked up and taken care of.
Very good. Thanks, sir. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
It's Indiana in the Morning, WCCS. Morning, WCCS.